Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the showdown between the Empire and the Greenskins. So it's going to be Volkmar the Grim facing off against the big Chungus himself, Grom the Paunch. Now, as far as the build goes, it is going to be a steam tank build, or the meme tank, as people like to call it. Granted, in this matchup, the steam tank isn't really a meme. It's actually quite strong. So, of course, it does have the ranged cannon, which can do some okay work against a number of greenskin targets. You can shoot Grom the Paunch, you can shoot the hags. It gives you a little bit of counter skirmishing against like spider riders. Granted, that's not really the most efficient usage. But really what's nice about the steam tank is its melee abilities, right? So it gets into melee, it has a nice anti-infantry bonus of 18. It also shoots the steam, and it's a huge source of terror, right? So in this particular build, you have Volkmar the Grim rolling around on his chariot, causing terror. You also have the steam tank. And the Greenskins are a faction that really does not like being terror routed. So having those two sources of terror, and also just this really tanky, tough threat, I think is very, very solid. So we have two greatswords in the front. Greatswords, of course, trade very well with most greenskin infantry, and a lot of times you don't really see black orcs in this matchup. So the greatswords can do very well against the orc biggins, the orc boys, goblins, savage orcs, all that stuff. They actually win all those respective trades. Now, just to have some insurance against spider riders and greenskin harass, I do have the silver bullets. It's my only powder piece really, aside from the steam tank, and my opponent can, of course, use like brain busters and spirit leeches to kind of bring them down, but I think it's a very cost-effective choice, and they usually do quite well. Spearmen in the back, and on the flanks, we have a Jade Wizard hiding in the trees because, unfortunately, the Greenskins have some really, really nasty sniping, whether it be the Vindictive Glare, which is probably the strongest form of it. Your Jade Wizard, if he's on a horse, for example, can be like two-shotted by Vindictive Glare. It's really stupid, but so yeah, that's why I always like to try and hide him in this matchup if I can from either Spirit Leeches or Vindictive Glare. Hiding in the forest here, we have Knights of the Blazing Sun. I think they're the optimal choice. They're the nice combination of tanky with magic resist against Spirit Leeches and other Greenskin Witchcraft, and on top of that, these guys just hit like absolute trucks. You don't really need demis here. Demogryphs tend to get kind of dragged down in just a massive bodies and low tier units and don't really have the killing power that the Knights of the Blazing Sun do on the charge, right? So yeah, these guys, probably one of my favorite units in the whole game. So we got those and another Knight of the Blazing Sun hiding in the trees. Now for the Greenskin army here, my opponent has the big Arachnorok Queen, certainly a little bit off meta in this matchup, but based on what I brought, this is actually a pretty serious threat and a really, really good pick here. It's going to be great against the steam tank, very good against Volkmar the Grim, can handle both of them in combat, so really, really strong kind of tech piece for my opponent. On top of that, he does have Savage Orcs, Orc Boys, backline of Orc Boar Boys into the Sunset, which are, cheap, cost-effective AP Cav, can trade relatively efficiently with Empire Knights, also do very well against like Greatswords if they get in there and pull out, and yeah, definitely not bad. In the back, we got Grom the Paunch, the big boy himself, and it looks like it is going to be a Spirit Leecher, so the Giant Ritual Hag. And that appears to be it. So let's get this party started, guys, and have some fun. Looks like right out of the gates here, the Hatchling Summon is going to be used. Quite curious here. I have a feeling the Hatchlings, they do last, quite some time. So maybe just going to use those to muck up Volkmar the Grim. Because, oftentimes with Volkmar, what I like to do, and most Empire players, you like to send Volkmar kind of up like the same way that Skaven use their summons. You send them forward to go muck up the enemy advance, it buys more time for your artillery, and things go well. Now, the steam tank getting some good shots, actually, bringing the Arachnorok Queen to sub 7,000 life, so very, very pleased with that. And here comes the Hatchlings. I think he's just trying to force my stuff back or maybe stop them from shooting. I'm not quite sure. But here come these Spider Hatchlings, going to be attacking the meme tank. And, kind of a cool play. They might just get terror routed here, though. We'll have to see in just a second. That's what's cool about the steam tank. It does have, like, the little steam cannon it can shoot. And let's actually watch for a second. So the meme tank is ramming the spiders. They're shaking. A couple silver bullets are lending some fire. And there goes the terror route, and as they run, I'm pretty sure the steam tank will actually pepper them down. So resetting the fire now, going into the Orc War Boys. They're at that side angle, and shooting side angle at cavalry is very, very strong. You can see it goes right through the formation, takes out 7 models outright. Certainly very, very punishing. And Volkmar the Grim does overextend a little bit, gets slapped with the mither, and now the spider's coming for him. So he's going to get attacked pretty heavily by this big spider here, as well as Grom the Paunch. So very, very scary indeed. My Knights of the Blazing Sun have fallen back because I saw my opponent coming through the forest. He had a superior force there, so I pull back, stay hidden. I'm waiting for him to kind of press my flank, and then the Knights of the Blazing Sun will emerge from their hiding and try and pounce on my opponent. Now, Volkmar the Grim in a little bit of a scary situation, but ultimately it's fine. He'll get the Soulfire Bombardment. He'll do big damage against the Savage Orcs. He'll take a little bit of damage. We also drop a Banishment as well, and we, more or less delete a 500 gold infantry unit, so not the best trade in the world, especially considering the damage I'm taking. My opponent probably came out a little bit ahead there. Now, my elite cavalry, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, did emerge from the forest and are coming to help out the Greatswords in combat versus Savage Orcs. Also give me a little bit more of a presence here. Up in the front, Greatswords do defeat the Orc Boys, but now the wave of elite goblins have gotten in, so we'll see if the Swords of Sigmar, the proud men of the Empire, can hold against these foul goblins. Should be quite a duel indeed. And the Warrior Priest moving up, going after the Giant Ritual Hag, which did overextend a little bit, and the guns of Sigmar, the silver bullets, able to unleash some serious firepower, and in this situation, it's not the worst. Volkmar is taking a beating, but he's also occupying, you know, over 4,000 gold worth of my opponent's army, while the rest of my army gets these really efficient trades, right? Knights of the Blazing Sun emerge from the trees, hammer into the Savage Orcs. A little bit dicey on my part because it does allow my opponent to get a countercharge on top of me, so very good control there. I thought his cav were going to engage over here, but he pulled them back, and these bacon boys do get a nice rear charge on my Knights of the Blazing Sun. Big old Crumpin going to be going down. We'll see if the Knights can hold their own. Certainly going to be taking some damage here, but the Greatswords also do crump the Savage Orcs. A little crumping back and forth there, giving the Greenskins a taste of their own medicine. And now the Greatsword's going to pile in and help against the Orc War Boys. So ultimately, I do pull the Knights of the Blazing Sun through my own troops, and it becomes a decent trade. Now, my front line does buckle. The Greatswords do get pushed back by the Goblins and the Spider, and the Wah does sound in the valley once more in the deep, and my back line is a little bit dicey here. Knights of the Blazing Sun, which did, of course, pull through that flank engagement, are able to jump back here and hopefully peel off these Spider Riders, and maybe we'll be able to save the Silver Bullets. I believe my Warrior Priest also got quite damaged as well. Yeah, he got a little bit kind of isolated here. Grom the Punch is an anti-infantry character, so Grom will be able to kill this Warrior Priest very, very easily. He's relatively tanky with 85 armor, but Grom is more than capable. So at this point, I do try and pull back the Warrior Priest while the buff is still active, giving him some ward save, but Grom is just all over him, man, and can't quite save him. Greatsword still fighting very efficiently here. Some Pig Cav also looking to maybe get around my back line, but really there's nothing to compromise in the backfield anymore. The Silver Bullets have just been more or less taken offline, but you know, if somebody's going to get something in your back line, much like if you're playing chess, you have to make them pay the price for it, pay the troll tolls, we like to say here on the channel. And I did kind of feel that my formations were faltering and my defensive symmetry was a little bit shaky, so at this point I'm going to be taking advantage of the fact that I have Volkmar and I have a steam tank, right? So in doing that, I'm going to pull my force back together, going to be getting the AoEs, the terror routes, and just trying to, you know, push these guys off using the terror here. So here comes the Soulfire Bombardment. Should be able to wreck these pigs pretty bad. Here it comes. The Righteous Fire of Sigmar going down and roasting these bacon boys. And as far as their health goes, 24 models. Yeah, so they got 24 models being forced back now. Spider Hatchlings should get terrified as well. And we actually have a very, very scary Empire Death Star. And believe it or not, the Greatswords are actually still fighting up here in the front. So if we look at the value accrued so far, these guys have gotten only 500. I guess they've been fighting mostly goblins, but the fact that they're still fighting and holding against a very aggressive Greenskin force, I'm quite happy with. And, you know, there's more to come. They're going to take out some goblins. They have some RORs there to fight, some Savage Orcs coming back. But all the AoE buffs from Volkmar really, really paying huge dividends back here, giving the ward save, making my tank very, very tough to kill. And any kind of lightly armored chaff units that come back here to fight are going to get punished as well. Now, my Warrior Priest, a little bit of a mistake from my opponent. He didn't chase the Warrior Priest or at least finish him off. So this character could potentially come back. He's at 14 leadership, at -11, -8, -3, and he should stabilize here in a second as his leadership has gone positive. And there he goes. So we do have Lore of Life, so if I can get him back, cast a regrowth on him, that's suddenly getting a very valuable character back, right? Because we're going to have 2 Soulfire Bombardments, which everything in my opponent's army, with the exception of the Spider, as well as the Orc Boys, is relatively, not Orc Boys, excuse me, Grom the Punch is very, very weak against these Soulfire Bombardments. So the main tank terror routing off those goblins here. We got these Spears of Sigmar moving up. Over here on this flank, we did get some Spearmen blocking the charge of some Orc Boys, while the Knights of the Blazing Sun, I believe we're going to countercharge. I can't quite remember. Maybe pulling back here. Who knows? All sorts of wild stuff going on. It looks like these Spearmen more or less are just grinding here with the Orc Boys and Orc War Boys and trading well. So back here, we do have the Spider versus the tank. The Spider, of course, if it just were a vacuum fight, would win, but we do have Volkmar here as well. We have access to healing. The Spider does not, so some of those rams are actually getting in there. Imagine being the steam tank driver and just like, ram it, ram that Spider! Oh, it's so cool, man. But the steam tank's coming in with Volkmar, getting into the Orc Boys, trying to, you know, protect my infantry where I can. The Soulfire Bombardment of the Gods. Look at this hero Warrior Priest. He's like the one from the Mark of Chaos trailer, just surrounded by foes, dropping all this righteous magic of Sigmar. And Volkmar is not going to let one of his faithful fall to these filthy orcs. He rolls into the forest here, and he's going to be getting some terror routes and hopefully, you know, punishing off these troops and freeing up this very epic Warrior Priest, who's taken a beating this game, but he's not giving up as he does club that Spider off its mount, which is pretty cool for sure. I'm glad that Warrior Priests have good armor now. In the early days of Warhammer 1, Warrior Priests only had like 35 armor. It's so silly. They're wearing like full plate, right? And they would just have like 35 armor. It's not full plate, but, you know, more or less they're pretty heavily plated. But yeah, the double bombardment's going to be super solid here, because now for the first time we pull ahead on the balance, largely due to the fact that we're getting these constant terror routes and AoE bombardments here on these Greenskin forces. Grom the Paunch a little bit trapped up in the trees. He'll be able to break these spearmen, but, you know, certainly effective to have the spearmen just holding the big boy in place here. And now the tank is, yeah, just being a tank here, man. Orc War Boys getting rammed. I think I saw a little goblin get run over by the spokes of this this fine Reichland engineering. There goes the Orc War Boys. It's probably not Reichland. I don't know. Nuln, whoever makes this steam tank, you guys could probably let me know. Some Knights of the Blazing Sun were busy chasing some units off the map. I believe it was one of his better units, maybe the Orc Boar Boys or something. They've now come back, and you can see with that we get a big terror rout, and all these Savage Orcs and different units really are buckling to the charge of these heavy shot cavalry. But the Greenskins coming in with a bit of a second wave. They have some spiders coming in, some infantry rallying here, so I really need to kind of press the envelope. Very much like the Lord of the Rings when the Rohirrim are like routing the orcs. You got to keep pushing because there's a lot of orcs there, and if they rally, it can get quite scary, you know, when the Mumakil come. Knights of the Blazing Sun appearing to charge the Arachnarok Spider. I think at this point I realized this was pretty much the only threat, so we're going to have to do it the good old Haggard, just grind it down way, maybe get it with army losses, break its leadership, chase it off the battlefield. The meme tank, of course, dropping its juicy steam cannon, which doesn't do much, but the cannonball itself from the steam tank, which still has a ton of ammunition, will give me some solid armor-piercing damage. It's basically a cannon, right? So it can sit here. It does enough damage to the Arachnarok Queen. The Knights of the Blazing Sun do come in from the far side, get us around on the spider, and with that spider shouldn't come back. I don't think the Greenskins have the stopping power left on the battlefield. We could have the ultimate chariot duel of the gods with Grom the Punch versus Volkmar. I'm pretty sure Volkmar, I don't know, it's hard to say. If they're both, yeah, see, Volkmar's healing capped, Grom the Punch isn't, so a little bit of a different situation there, but Volkmar does do fire damage and has huge buffs. So yeah, Volkmar might win that. That would be an interesting thing to test. I mean, it's not really something that comes into play, nor is it terribly pertinent to the matchup, but it's just kind of an interesting question there. But anyway, Steam Tank here, grinding these Forest Goblin Spider Riders down. It will be able to shoot with the Steam Cannon. You can see each of those rams actually does take out quite a few. People always underestimate that Steam Tanks are actually pretty formidable in melee, and the Steam Cannon plus the Cannonball Shot does give you a fair amount of versatility. So at this point, it's basically just Grom the Paunch, and the Fury of Sigmar is coming. Volkmar the Grim going to be preparing to engage. Grom does intercept my Knights, which is a good play, but all these Knights do fire damage, so that's going to be a fair amount of extra damage I'm getting here. But yeah, Grand Hammer of Sigmar putting their melee attack up to 64. Pretty serious stuff for sure. And Grom, despite his lucky banner, will be suffering army losses. Well played to my opponent. Very, very fun game. And there's a couple ways to play against Greenskins. One of them, this is, I think, a relatively old school one, but it's still, old faithful here. You can use like Franz builds with handgunners. You can use Marcus with nets. There's like a bunch of ways. So that's what's cool about Empire in general, is they're a very diverse faction. You can do a lot of different stuff. So yeah, that's the reason why I really enjoy them. But Volkmar, hands down, one of the best lords in the game. Just such a disruptive tool. And the Warrior Priest did okay. A couple of bombardments, nice buffs. Great swords, didn't quite pay for themselves, but they hold, which is important, right? Steam Tank, 2,000. Knights of the Blazing Sun, 800 and 1,500. Pretty split value over the whole army. Now, for his force, Grom the Paunch went pretty crazy. I honestly think if he had kept his Giant River Troll Hag, it could have been a different game. Like, the Hag died super early, and I think in the end that probably cost him the match. Like, he fought a good 60% of that battle without his caster, and he still made it a close game. So very well played to my opponent Rinsler here. This was actually from a best of 3. Yeah, I'm trying to think of everything else here. The spider was cool. Kind of got, losing the Hag, losing your magic. Spirit Leeches would have been super useful against Great Swords. Could have helped him, deal with the Steam Tank or finish off my Jade Wizard or finish off the Warrior Priest, right? Like, there was a number of things he could have finished off with that Spirit Leech, but he simply didn't have it, which was unfortunate. So well played. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one, Empire vs. Greenskins. I know there's a ton of Empire replays here on the channel. Going to try and diversify a little bit. Maybe learn some Dark Elves, even though I'll be terrible, but should be fun. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, and take care, guys.